The big news of the day: Texas passes SBR, the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, the SB 21 at a vote of 101 to 42. We're seeing the state adoption continue to chug along. All that's left here is for Governor Abbott to sign off on this one, which I'm pretty hopeful of. I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was Katie Hobbs from Arizona that vetoed the other version of the Arizona bill that was going through there. Democrat, Republican, I think he's going to take basically, I think the Republican stance right now very much so is favorable Bitcoin. I hate that we have to play sides like that.
Yeah.
But as long as it's chugging along, I think that everybody eventually kind of gets on this train. And if I'm not mistaken, in the Genius Act, whatever it was, for the stable coins from that Ben was talking about yesterday on Why Are We Bullish at the beginning there, that Democrats did cross the floor. I think I've mentioned this before. I think Bitcoin is becoming a basic.
We'll go with that. Basical. That's the new word.
It's becoming basical. Thank you. I created it. It's becoming a basical kind of political stance where it's almost like I'm going to lower taxes. I'm going to give you more free shit. That being pro Bitcoin is just going to be a default position, and it's kind of leaking into the political system. It's trudging a horse in its way in. So very excited for the people of Texas. Did you have any thoughts on this recent announcement there, Gary?
I mean, it just seems like this is all inevitably on its way. And, like we say, Bitcoin's going to do what Bitcoin's going to do. I could sit here and have my libertarian hangups, the idea like, do I really want government owning this stuff? And then it's a question of, okay, well, maybe I don't want government owning it, but maybe if government does own it, they're less inclined to try to restrict it and punish people who have it because now they have skin in the game. I mean, you could theorize this all day long. I don't know. Bitcoin's just going to do what it's going to do, and people are going to get onto it. There's going to be institutions, there's going to be governments. It's going to happen. So get in while the price is low. And that's the crazy fucking thing. 111 is still crazy low. I mean, that's the insane thing. It doesn't mean it won't go down from here. It could, I don't know, it could drop down to 70, 60 at some point next year. I don't know, which is why, again, if you're into Bitcoin, you should be thinking long-term. Never get too high, never get too low. Don't spike the football, even though we just did sort of spike the football.
Did spike the
football. But just, understand if you're in it for the long haul, you'll be fine. And just accept that there's going to be downturns. They will happen. Just stick with it. You're good.
100%. I want to point out here, Texas economy is the second largest in the United States with a gross state product of $2.709 trillion. This makes it larger than the economies of many countries, including my socialist backwards part of the world, Canada. It's larger than Italy, and it's also larger than Russia. If Texas were its own country, it would be the 8th largest economy in the world. And speaking of Russia, just want to point this out. Russian central bank to lift restrictions on financial instruments tied to Bitcoin. More favorable environment there, which makes perfect sense because if you remember from just a couple of weeks ago in April, we had China and Russia settle energy trade in Bitcoin. They're looking to get outside that US dollar system. And again, they have, somewhat of an alliance in these things too, but we're all kind of adversarial countries. They're going to need that neutral reserve asset to move between them that nobody can screw with. We had Bitcoin is increasingly being used in international trade, particularly by countries looking to avoid US-controlled financial system. Russia and China have reportedly used Bitcoin to settle energy transactions. And Texas, Russia, energy, I think it's very important to note. We also had some speculation from Jack Mallers recently. Strike founder and 21 Capital now as well too. Jack Mallers just said UAE is buying billions of Bitcoin and mining BTC. And we have a little clip here that I want to play for you because it's interesting his thought process on this.
Let me break this down for my fellow Bitcoiners. In just 8 weeks, I've seen a serious shift. More strength, more energy, and fast muscle gains. The reason? FITSCRIPT. They ran 124 biomarkers, blood, hormones, inflammation, and built a fully custom plan, nutrition, training, supplements. No guesswork, no templates. This is functional medicine meets precision fitness for high-performing men who want sovereignty over their health. If you care about optimization the way you care about your money, test, don't guess. Don't trust, verify. Hit the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen to check out FITSCRIPT and see what's possible.
This is probably a rounding error, and you can open a Bitcoin chart, you can open a gold chart and see where the money's going. And when you see filings that you guys think the Abu Dhabi Sovereign Wealth Fund has a $500 million position in an ETF in America and they don't have any physical Bitcoin and they aren't mining Bitcoin? Are you out of your mind if you think that's true? No way. This is probably a rounding error of their position. So you're seeing global capital flows be entirely reordered. And so since the last few weeks, Bitcoin has drastically outperformed the NASDAQ. Drastically. And you could open a
So with that, Gary, the one thing that I saw, that common thread that leading these ones, is that I think it's going to end up being the big energy reserve, big energy countries that have the most incentive to trade their energy for Bitcoin versus trading it necessarily for US dollars, things that can be printed out of thin air. That it's kind of going after that, exorbitant privilege of the US dollar to basically print paper, more or less, and then trade that for energy. And I think that we're going to see continued adoption in this sense from the energy rich nations. And I think at the same time, this would also explain why the resource poor nations are going to be adversarial, try and clamp down on it, throw in extra restrictions, try and, quell it as much as possible. And what I'm thinking of is a place like the UK. The UK's restrictions on retail getting into Bitcoin, withdraws, all the additional regulation and scrutiny that they're putting in place, they're making it very difficult for people to get into Bitcoin unnecessarily. And it's not a favorable environment. But if you think of it from that sort of perspective, they're a resource poor country. They don't have energy. They have to import everything. Their biggest, I think, like export, their biggest industry is financial systems. It's the finance markets. They're trading in derivatives and foreign exchange, and they're doing all that middleman shit where they're taking a massive cut and getting stupidly profitable and stupidly rich for really adding nothing in terms of goods or services, right? They've just inserted themselves into the corrupt existing system, and they're just collecting a spread while moving shit around, while other countries that are actually providing you with hydrocarbons and lumber and resources and innovation and technology, they're not going to want to play that game anymore. And I think that that's where we're going to see kind of the divide that I think as we continue going forward, and we're still very early, and then I'm curious your thoughts on this, that we're going to see countries, they have to take a Bitcoin position now, whether good or bad. They have to say, we're going to try and stop it, or we're going to try and throw some hurdles up in the way. We're going to try and really you can't stop Bitcoin, just stop the population from being able to use it. But they're going to try and restrict or clamp down or stop Bitcoin. Good luck. Or they're going to be like, nope, we've got stuff that we can sell for this. We're going to ride the wave of the monetization. We're going to take advantage of it. But I don't think you can have a neutral non-position anymore. I think every nation is essentially going to have to make this decision for themselves. So Texas, Russia, UAE, what are your thoughts on this, Gary?
I mean, I wonder how much we're going to see of kind of similar to individuals who choose to buy or not buy Bitcoin. Because, there's that kind of bell curve of the people who were really rich who are like, okay, I have all this wealth. I need to find a place to hide it and keep it safe from the money printer. Okay, maybe Bitcoin's a way to go. And you have the really, really poor people who are like, I have nothing. The whole system is keeping me out. I can't save on dollars or whatever my currency is in my native country. Maybe Bitcoin is this one escape. And then you have people in the middle who, much like, somebody I know who's a very intelligent person who is doing well for himself, lives in a nice suburban house, neighborhood, everything. And he has a lot of his investments in traditional places, stocks, direct company investment, obviously real estate. And for them, it's not something that they really feel the need to do one way or the other. They don't have a big pool of capital sitting there they just need to do something with, but they're not extremely poor either. And I wonder if it'll be kind of a similar case where it's the huge energy resource rich countries, like you said, like, oh, we need to find a way to put money into this, or people like the United States where we can just print the money and find a way to buy Bitcoin. And the really, really poor countries are like, hey, let's take a chance. We have nothing to lose at this point. Whereas, like you said, you have places like England and like the traditional Europe, Western Europe, who are sort of established. It's older money. They are fine in their system. They're not going to be poor anytime soon, but they don't feel the need to go and take any extra wealth and put it away from the things they already know. They're comfortable. And when you're comfortable, why mess with success, so to speak? So I do wonder if those are going to be kind of the last countries that jump on here. Maybe not. I don't know.
I got to say, you pointed out something, and I didn't even realize it till you said it. I was like, oh my God, it's right there in front of me the whole time. Traditional investments is like the greatest psyop that I've heard in a long time, because traditional investments is savings. They've successfully conditioned the population that like, no. The traditional thing that you should be doing is buying S&P 500 stock.
Yes.
Right. And you're going to need mutual funds, and you're going to have a broker. You have to pay somebody to sit you down because you can't do it on your own.
Yes.
That would be no good.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have somebody sit you down and do it for you and collect the spread and get really rich and have lovely lifestyle as a result.
You should be gambling on these companies that you know nothing about beyond what you might have read in the Wall Street Journal one day.
But you're right. Everyone calls it like traditional
Yeah.
investments, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the safe route. It's
Yeah.
gotten, it's definitely a sign of the time. So continuing too with that sort of investment, a couple things I just wanted to point out here quickly as well. We've got in a portfolio filing today, Blackstone Alternative Multi-Strategy Fund reported owning 23,094 shares of IBIT. And interestingly enough, anyone who doesn't know that BlackRock actually was a spinoff from Blackstone originally as well too. So they're buying their cousins' ETF shares. So we're seeing continued kind of corporate and institutional adoption. And I do think that really is the narrative of this cycle. I know you pointed it out before, and we'll jump into that in a second. And the second one I had too, we had $660 billion Susquehanna reveals about 300 million more Bitcoin in Q1. And they are a privately held global trading and technology firm. And we're seeing this corporate adoption chugging along, but you actually pointed out something to me before we sat down here. And I think it's very interesting and kind of telling, and you know, in some ways, actually a little bit kind of sad. You showed me this shrimp addresses chart here, comparing the previous cycles and where we are currently. Gary, can you tell me a little bit more about this and kind of what your thoughts are?
Yeah, thank you, Bitcoin News, by the way. I saw that on your little Twitter feed there. Credit to them. But the idea that addresses in wallets with under 1 Bitcoin have gone down. They've not gone up. And, you know, you can maybe speculate, well, maybe people have accumulated more. But like you pointed out to me, Nathan, because I'm an idiot, there's no way to tell that with just one wallet because you can't figure out the XPub. So it could have been different addresses with different UTXOs. For those laymen listening, don't know what a UTXO is. It's just like a little individual unit, $1, $5 portion of Bitcoin. You wouldn't be able to tell that they're all necessarily in the same physical wallet with different addresses. So this just links to addresses. So yeah, it's not it's going down a bit, and it is a bit odd because usually we would imagine, you know, retail would pump like everything else, but it doesn't seem to be. And I went on Mempool when we saw the 111,000 high. I'm like, oh man, Sats for rebuy transaction costs must be through the roof. No, lower than ever. 1, 2.
Even though it's all-time high, Bitcoin's at 111,000. And I think it's going to be a fun summer for sure. I think we're going to have a sideways and up kind of summer. The retail's not here. I'm not getting any texts. I'm not getting any calls. I wonder if they feel priced out. I know we were talking about this beforehand too. You thought that, you know, last cycle, everyone was talking about how this is corporate adoption, but it didn't really happen. And I think that that is happening now. And similarly, I think with all the talk, even of nation state adoption, I think this is kind of the warm up, the introduction, and perhaps the real nation state adoption comes in the next cycle. But retail still hasn't shown up. There's little activity on main chain. I wonder if it's a sense that they feel priced out at this point, that like, they have that kind of unit bias that like, oh, I can't possibly catch up with Bitcoin at 111,000, having no idea, you know, this is taking on the treasury market and the real estate market. We've got a lot of room to still grow here. Or if they got burned in the previous cycle. I know I saw recently too some Google, just Google Trends searches for Bitcoin. It's all crickets, man. They're not here. So if this is a kickoff for the next part of the cycle, maybe a good little bull run here as well, I still think we have the FOMO moment on the horizon.
Bitcoin Well is the best place to be buying and selling Bitcoin in Canada and the US. And now with Bitcoin Well Infinite, it's also the best place to be making large buys at their OTC desk of over $50,000. Their white glove service gives you fast transactions, no slippage, and the lowest fees. You can scan the QR code on the screen or simply head to bitcoinwell.com/BTC sessions to sign up today. And you can share your own personalized referral link to earn commissions.